Hey, FBC students, hope you guys are good. Um, so we are wrapping up our series Now and Later. So this is week 5. And so we've just been talking about the book of Proverbs and some of the wisdom that comes out of that book. And so we have looked at how wisdom now can actually help us later in life. And so start out here, a couple quick questions for you. One is, how many of you ever been accused of using words as weapons? Right, you say something really hurtful or painful just to kind of attack somebody, maybe. Another way, or another question here is how many of you know what it's like to stick your foot in your mouth from something that you have said, right? So that is all me. I do that, it seems like, all the time. So they can really create some really cringe-worthy moments, right? When you say something really hurtful, or you say something that you stick your foot in your mouth. When that happens, a lot of times it can lead to awkward moments, but sometimes it can really lead to some conflict, some hostility between you and the other person. And so, whether it's a poorly timed comment or just a poor choice of words, the result is oftentimes hostility or conflict, an argument. And a lot of us handle conflict differently. Some of us yell, they raise our voice. Some of us, we don't. We sit quietly and we don't really say anything. We just kind of stew on it and we kind of think about it. It just kind of gets worse quietly. Some of us, we get really defensive. Some of us maybe use blame, trying to deflect some of that. But no matter how you respond to conflict, one thing that is always at the center is our words and what we say. And so what we're going to talk about today, really, that our words have tremendous amounts of power, maybe more power than you even realize, power to impact and influence the relationships that we have, whether it be family, friends, all of that. And so, is there really a way for us to communicate during conflict without losing our cool, without blowing up and losing it in a situation? Well, you see, I think the book of Proverbs has a lot to say about this. And so one of the verses that we're going to look at today, I think, will help with this situation. You know, Proverbs is a book written by Solomon. A lot of it was written by Solomon in the Old Testament, and it is full of sayings and principles of truth that can help us live a better life. But before we really get into that, I want to make kind of two quick observations about what we're talking about today. And the first is this, that your generation, you guys, you teenagers, you're not the first to have to deal with conflict, right? That's kind of obvious. If you look at any history whatsoever, you know conflict has always been there. The second thing is that learning to use your words isn't just a modern teenage issue. Right? This has been an issue since man was created. Saying the wrong thing, using the wrong words has always been a problem. And so I know a lot of times you guys get some heat over that teenagers don't know how to communicate nowadays or whatever. But really, I think it's two parts, right? It's our job as adults to help you learn this process, but it's also your responsibility to make sure, because we can't pick the words for you, so you say those things. So it's kind of twofold there. And so I want you guys to realize that what we're saying here is, what we're talking about today is not just specifically a teenage issue, but it is a human issue, right? It's a problem ever since creation. And so looking at Proverbs 15:1, here's what it says. It says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Right? And so I want to break this down into two parts, like we have a lot of these Proverbs, and I want to kind of flip it and start with the second half. Right? So a harsh word stirs up anger. So when we say harsh words, what we're meaning is any unpleasant word that you might say that is spoken with an angry tone, okay? And the intent of that word is to shut down the conversation. And here's what I mean. let's say, for example, you go to your mom, dad, parent, and you say, hey, I want to go do this or whatever. You're tired of being stuck at the house during quarantine, so you want to go out, do something with your friends, or go over to somebody's house, and they respond with no. And immediately you come back with just awful, hateful things, right? I hate being a part of this family. I hate you. I wish I never was a part of this family. You never let me do anything. You're always such a stick, and you're on and on and on, just running over all of these things, right? You're bringing up stuff from 4 years ago that has no relevance to this conversation, right? So in that, you're using those unpleasant words simply just to shut the conversation down, to shut your parent down, just to kind of end it, right? And what ends up happening? What's the result? Well, you both probably walk away mad, yelling, screaming, slamming doors, and in the end, the result is that you have severely impacted your now, because you're angry and you're upset, and your later, right? Because you're probably not going to get to go to do whatever you were wanting to do, right? So what you do now has impact on later. We've talked about that. But the other half of this verse says that a gentle answer turns away wrath. Right? A gentle answer turns away wrath. Basically, it just means that when we use gentle words, we can deter, we can deflect, deflate, however you want to say that, anger. We can diffuse a situation simply by how and what we say. It's really hard if you think about it. If someone if you're yelling at someone, it's really hard to have that argument if they're using a calm and gentle tone and words, right? A perfect example of this is when Tori is around her 4-year-olds, her friends, as she calls them, at pre-K. Man, you can have a kid that just has a complete meltdown, over something silly like their crayon broke, or someone said they didn't want to be their friend, or whatever, right? And this kid just has a meltdown. One of the things that I've noticed with Tori is that she will automatically respond in a lower tone. So she's calm. She speaks slowly to the child, right? And it's crazy to watch how she can diffuse that situation. Now, when she uses it on me, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I'm being talked to like a 4-year-old, but maybe that's how she should talk to me. I don't know. But in that moment, she diffuses that situation simply by the tone she has and the words that she chooses to use. But the primary thing I think that all of us really come to, and it's really this choice that we have in that moment when conflict arises, is we either say that we're going to choose to use gentle words or harsh words. That's the choice that wisdom tells us and presents to us here. You see, if we want to keep our influence with those around us, then we have to focus on those gentle words. And really, it's about being heard, right? This is kind of the main takeaway. This is what I want you guys to walk away with today is if you want to be heard, use gentle words. If you want to be heard, use gentle words. That is a basic human need that we all want, is to be heard, to be valued. And so if you want to be heard, you use gentle words in those conflicts, in those arguments, right? And see, here's a couple of things that go along with that. One is you can't always control what other people maybe do or say. And so when that happens, our response is really the only thing that can be controlled. So if they respond with hurtful words, but we respond with gentle words, one, we could possibly diffuse the situation. And two, we're choosing not to allow ourselves to say hurtful and mean things when we sometimes don't even mean those things, right? And so the other thing is this, is that would you rather, it's asking yourself this question, would you rather make the point, right? Would you rather make a point, or would you rather be heard, right? Because if all you're concerned about is making a point, really what you're saying is that I don't really care about you or this situation. I just want to be right. I just want to win the argument. I just want to maybe have the wittiest and most sarcastic comeback that I possibly can. And it boils down to shutting people down, shutting down that conversation. But if you want to be heard, then we have to remember that we have to do everything within our power, right? Because we can control ourselves. We can control what we do. We do everything within our power to make sure that that person understands what we're saying and understands what we're trying to get across here, right? That's our job. And so if we want to be heard, we also have to remember that we have to listen as much as we talk. So it really is important that we listen to what the other person says more than just us trying to say what we think. Because really we want to show people that what they think and what they're saying is just as important to us as what we say to them. And so do we want to make a point, or do we want to be heard? And so it's amazing how when we go into a conflict with calmness, with kindness, with gentleness, it's amazing how far we can go, right? And so we can still be honest. We can still say what we think, but we're more focused on how we say things and what we say than being right. And so our opinion may be right, or so we think. And we can be honest about those things, but how we say it really truly matters. And so keep up with that this week. Jot it down on a note card, or maybe do something in your phone, create a note, and come up with, a way to track that. You see, how would your relationships really be different? How would they change if you were more focused on using gentle words than harsh words? How would things be better? And so what we do now will have an impact on the relationships that we have later. And so I hope this helps you guys. I hope that you can use this, and we'll see you guys soon.